Well, it's a blue galactic monkey day. I don't know what to do about that. Hey, Stefan, back by popular demand. Some of you demanded, some of you request. I listened to those of you that I felt like listening to. It's a
Did you
very
say
good day.
recoil or request? Oh, sorry, no.
There's a dynamic. I'll admit it. Here's the thing, though. I love you, and it's one of those days that we're gonna actually have to go deeper into what it is that makes chaos hail Eris. So maybe we should mention, like, last time we talked, we were like, it's a weird thing. We have this whole plan of things to do, and it was a cosmic monkey day, right? Is it we seeing the screen here? Did I get the right screen? Did I
I'll
check?
believe you if you tell me. But
Yeah.
I remember you saying it was a monkey day, and there's a difference between a galactic monkey day and a cosmic monkey day. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. So the deal is with Mayan calendars, instead of having 12, you have 13 moons. And that way there's just like about 20 days each moon instead of 12 months with like 31, 30, 29. Blah. You just kind of get it to like a moon by moon, and each moon's got a thing going on for itself. So there's like cosmic, there's galactic, there's world bridging, there's a whole bunch. Like death is world bridging, and birth is world bridging. Birth and death are world bridging. So there's a bunch of different kinds of days. There's dogs, there's Skywalker. I think that's George Lucas's sign was the Skywalker, actually. And so he was a
Okay.
red Skywalker, and that's where some of the names, even Starkiller, and these things, he got he changed his name from Starkiller to Skywalker because of the Mayan astrology. But they all are supposed to do something. That's the thing that's kind of interesting. I always liked the Mayan calendar. By the way, today is 13 instead of 0, but we do a back tune recount. So basically it's 130917 like an odometer. And so this is the 7th, because there's 0 to 6, 7 days of this 20-day cycle, which there's been 18 of, because there's 0 to 8, 18. And when it gets to 20 of those, it'll change this. And when there's, that'll say 10, right? And then that just continues to add up. And that's why this says 0, because we do the thing where at 13 it recycles, but it's 13. It should just say 13. I always just write 13. Like, why would you not? But I guess the thing is, maybe someone already did that, in which case it could be 26, 27. I don't know.
Right.
And that gets us into monkeys, because monkeys harmonize in order to play. Like, that's the whole point, right? And playing is so key to everything, because you play music, you play games, you play illusions. I harmonize in order to play. Modeling illusion, I seal the process of magic with the galactic tone of integrity. I'm guided by the power of vision. And Blue Galactic Monkey is an galactic activation portal. Enter me, which is pretty cool, because anything is possible when the monkey throws a wrench into the machine. The machine breaks down, and then all of a sudden anything is possible. You can go outside, you can see new worlds, you can play.
You just don't want to interpret it when a monkey says "enter me," because that's how we end up with HIV. Sorry,
it's allegedly.
I didn't say the whole word.
That's the mainstream thing. Actually, I think you're right on to be allowed to say that.
I'm gonna go get a lighter just so that I don't have to get up later, but it's only a couple feet away. I think I'm also gonna leave the screen for at least another 5 seconds, so that give the people a chance to tune out. That
oh my god,
can't stand my guts. No, sorry. Anyways.
No, I mean, the thing is, though, you can't step in the same river twice. You can't be the same person every day, and you can't have the same podcast twice. That's the way it is. And
well, I mean, oh yeah, I do appreciate you having me on here for the first time, though, because as you said, each time it's the first time again, and there's no such thing as doing the same thing twice, even if we tried.
Dude,
I heard that people trust you more if they can see your hands. So I actually I can't see myself framed up here, but I'm giving myself a surface. I've got a fisheye lens on there. Maybe I'll take it off later.
Can you? Oh, that's right. This was part of the thing. Colonel, I already lost I messed this one up.
This is my favorite one because if you go back one.
Okay,
with the capitals and non-capitals, it was Lil looks like the third.
It's true.
And then Colonel spelled a different way. It can be XOLOL, like kisses and hugs, laughing out loud. That's actually. So the only other time I've heard this consonants, we're using
interesting
an X.
point. X and O's are interesting.
So there's a woman that came into my yoga studio, and her name began with a KS, and I had never seen this this consonant combination before, and I was wondering how she said her name. It was spelled Ksenia. So how would you say that?
Ksenia.
Yeah.
Xeni. I don't know.
So I thought she was saying that she'd make out with anyone, and she'd make out with anyone. I'll Ksenia. Get it?
Yeah, she said, yeah.
But that's how she said her name was Ksenia.
Yeah.
So kind
okay.
of like that, like Xirtus. Like that's
Right.
kind of, if you really tried to break it down, you kind of say Xirtus, which is hard to put into phonetics, but KS is a approximation. And a kernel being a joke, a computer joke that I wouldn't have gotten before you actually told me that a kernel was like a fundamental unit of most software programs. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, wait, really quickly, what is this thing? Have you seen this before? Are you seeing my screen? Does this share?
Yeah. That's a Dejad pillar, maybe DJED.
That is interesting. I mean, so the idea of the Dejad pillar is associated with X, right? Pretty good. Pretty good.
Again, it's the pattern recognition wetware is my joke, but it's actually kind of not a joke, you know.
I mean,
what do you see?
Yeah. This thing looks electric, right?
We didn't plan that either, guys. You know?
No.
That's sure, not for sure.
Right. No, that was rehearsed. No, what is this? What is this? Actually, it looks electric.
Dejad pillar. There's some amazing videos where they're made out of different stones, and when you vibrate them at a certain frequency and then hold them close to each other, sparks actually come off of them because of piezoelectricity and everything. So yeah, I really can't even see my hair. This is going to be interesting.
And they go, the sparks, they go like, and so that's where they get the sound for X. That makes the most sense. Now we're starting to get somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is interesting. X-ray, X, all the weird, when you're a kid, they're like, X is a weird letter. It's all associated with weird stuff. X-rays, xylophones, zebras. You can't even ride them around. There's just something about the X.
But in that might also just be a capital K or for kernel,
So X also is the chi. I remember Chardin. A lot of places in Spain spell garden with an X for Chardin. Yeah.
Never heard that one before.
Yeah, because the southeast especially, and even the north, actually, the X is popular for that. I mean, it's a strange letter in every way. And you
got to be careful. The X is popular. Oh yeah. Now we sound like 50 Cent in the club.
That's true. DMX was always cool because he used the X. I always appreciated that. I think he was, really trying to advocate for the right thing.
What you really want. He passed recently, unfortunately. That's a
it was a super bummer. That was terrible. It was a really horrible thing. But there was so then I was looking at this. It says the stocks in Carfax, formerly Scarfolks, Horsham. Have you seen this? What do you think about this? Is this literally a pillory? A pillory?
This is something where I found it 2 years ago.
Whoa.
And in order to re-find it, it took me typing 35 things into Google. But the idea that the word Carfax and scare folks, and then the word Carrefour, Carrefour, meaning the crossroads. So if you were going to publicly humiliate or publish someone, you would do it at the place where the most people would see them, which is at the crossroads, which is oftentimes when one rule system will intersect another, and then you end up with local rules, so to speak. And so at some point in our history, these were used for public punishment, and theories abound as to perhaps why they were preserved or what they were originally used for. But
I mean, dang.
These are the kind of things that I just like marveling at, and there's no real interpretation, but I learned the word Carrefour, which means crossroads, and then Carfax, obviously with the modern meaning too. You wonder if that was just about a cute mascot, the lion for Carfax, or the lion. Yeah, whoa, okay, Sunday night. Anyways, but what else are we supposed to make of this other than go, whoa?
Yeah, no, I mean, Scar folks, I hear scare, I do, but I also hear scar, like you're scared for life because you're scarred for life. And the whole idea of this being, Carfax, I don't know, that freaks me out too.
Which is an indelible report.
Yeah, right, exactly. I know that's kind of a lesser synchronicity, but isn't it kind of interesting, the idea of pillory for people as their credit scores these days? And here it is in public, the former way that it was very common to just flog and show people in public humiliation, right?
Yeah. And one thing about that, I mean, with the Carfax report, this is like the dad brain in me kicking in to say something out loud that I wish someone taught me when I was younger. But Carfax reports for cars before a certain time or of a certain make are a lot more important, because if something has frame damage and it's a unitized frame, which means it came off of one of these 50,000-pound presses that stamped a metal into an alloy, instantly crystallizing it into that alloy that makes it resistant enough to be used as part of the roll cage, et cetera. But a unitized frame, meaning that you can actually, if this part of the bottom 2/3 got dented in, it may kink the frame, but it's designed to break at certain points. And then even though there's frame damage on the Carfax report, it doesn't actually affect the safety integrity of the car itself. So again, it's one of these things that it's a fine line. A lot of people, if there's a blemish on that Carfax report, that used car is just going to sit there and go down and down in price. And so as a consumer, maybe knowing that and knowing which cars have unitized frames, Audi was famous for reinventing a whole bunch of aluminum welding techniques, and they made an aluminum car.
What
Named,
was
and they still do, yeah.
Audi aluminum? Do you know there was a car that was so dangerous that the Fight Club movie is based on? I think it's a Ford, but is this it? This is the aluminum car? That's kind of cool.
Well,
Kinda
they have their A3, A4, A5, A6, A7. Their A8, their A8 is the aluminum car. It was their flagship. It was because it's so big, and it's like there's a version that even has an extra 6 inches in the wheelbase. I had the old school version, not the new school version, way back in the day. And again, had frame damage on the Carfax report. She treated me so well. Oh my god! And I love the retro look. I don't even like the new one.
Was it the Fiesta that was? It had what was it? It was a fiberglass. I think it was the Fiesta. There's a Ford car that had a fiberglass, like explosions. Man, what was it called? Back in the 80s. And so the gas tank was fiberglass, and it was a cute looking car in the 80s. What was it called? The Pintos. And yeah, this thing is a cool looking car, right? Everyone wants this car. Only problem is that the gas tank was fiberglass, so when it cracked, it exploded in the worst possible way.
Nice color choice, though.
Yeah, no, the colors were great. Like the leather interior, the fake leather.
My parents talk about how they had a Fiat, and it was the Flintstones car. Up here in New England, there's so much salt and sand on the road that the bottom of the car rusted out. And while they were driving, if you relaxed and your leg hit the ground, you could get clipped. And
dude, Fiats are cool. I love Fiats, but their fix it again Tony is the whole thing. But I knew a guy who just worked on Fiats as a job, and so he had he always had to work in Fiat. So they're cool. They're little Ladas, basically. The Lada's a ripoff of the Fiat.
See, the nice thing about an aluminum car, if someone's trying to use magnets to push people off the road, they keep aiming for your car and going, "What the hell is he on stealth mode? Like what? Who's ever heard of an aluminum car before?" But I did a lot of highway driving and somehow made it through.
Car aficionados foaming at the mouth are like, look up the Datsun. And I don't disagree. The Datsun's very cool. Yeah. Who doesn't want a 240Z coupe? Come on, right? The Z1 especially. It basically looks kind of like the Jaguar XKE convertible. And that's what I know about cars. Okay, so bottle art. What's this?
57 Chevy Bel Air convertible. That's what I want. But I want it fully modernized. In terms of
when you say modernized, you mean you want it to be a hovercraft that travels?
No, it's obviously. And yeah. I'm gonna save my money until I can get it in the hover, and that's why I don't have it yet. Is I'm just waiting until technology catches up with my bank account. Right? Yeah. No.
Dude, what was it? I think that literally they did that in He-Man. I wish I could remember. Masters.
No, Rogan talks about some guy who's makes a career out of that, where he takes old cars and basically does everything over from the skin in, from the outside. A purist would hate that. It's not, numbers matching, and some people would call it blasphemy.
I like people that change things. So I was just telling you about this. I'm gonna nerd out for 30 seconds, and I promise to stop. So the TAM Mac upgrade, this guy here, Action Retro, this is my boy. I love this guy. He's just he's amazing. So he's gotten all these old Macs that are just do you even remember the TAM? I barely remember the TAM. This is right before Steve Jobs came back.
Visually, do not recognize that computer unit.
Totally, right? And so he installs Rhapsody, which is the like OS Next, Apple version and things like that. But what he did is he's like, we all like fixing old computers, but he will take an SD card and replace the hard drive with it. So all of a sudden it has like an SD card is like 64 gigabytes, which is huge for one of these things or whatever. These used to be like megabytes, and it's
sound engineers cut that. Oh yeah. Sorry.
Right. Probably
bad manner. Sorry. Anyway.
No, that's right. I could do the thing. But this is the way you plug in a chip into the thing and you can plug your SD card into it. And so all of a sudden these old computers that they're like 64 megahertz or whatever, that's not very fast. We're in like the gigahertz and things, but this thing will run perfectly because it has a fast enough solid state memory. And that's definitely not stock, but that'll make it run as better than any computer ever could. You know what I mean? So we could get back into making things exactly the way they were and adding, but I just think that there's no point. Like getting this to run and having the operating system working on the machine, I want a car like a Bel Air that has Google Maps and like radio. Like I don't want to just be like, you know what I mean? Why would you want something that would be completely stock when you could have, you wouldn't have wanted it stock when it came out. I don't know. But that's my pitch. That's my nerd out.
What I was going to say was having that kind of computer setup, if you're meeting people in an office, is almost trying to see if they get the joke that you're making. Is you've hollowed out an old computer interface the same way with a car. Is you've hollowed it out and put modern guts in it, so to speak. And now, some people just like working on a certain machine. My dad was back in the maybe 80s, got one of the first home computers, that Mac that was only this big. And it had a screen, and I played a lot of Yahtzee on that computer growing up, and Hangman. There were a couple good games on there that. And I remember watching one of my younger cousins, or family friends actually, for the first time coming into the office, and that first moment of discovery where, I move my hand with the mouse and something on the screen follows it. And it took him 3 attempts of sitting down at the computer to have enough focus to pay attention to both things, because he was, maybe 3 or 4 at the time. But that's kind of a cool, it's like instead of learning their first word or taking their first steps, it was that first venture into the metaverse, right? It's, I can control things in the outside world that aren't physically connected to me. So maybe magic is real.
Totally. I mean, like people with cars, you fix up your car, you swoop up your car. I like the Cuban approach, like the Cuban 1950s body, like an American car body, but there's nothing American in a Cuban car anymore. It's all these Soviet parts and Chinese parts and everything. And they've got radios, and that is just the cyberpunk future. And if you've got a cool case, I mean, the old Macs, the whole sell point is that they're really nice aluminum or titanium or whatever bodies, right? So take those, cool cases and make them awesome. I think that's not the most important thing, but I do get excited about computers.
Well, I think one thing, well, as far as hollowing it out and upgrading it, some people could see that as hacking and assume that you're taking apart machines and figuring them out. I don't know. From the time I was little, though, whenever anything broke, it was kind of given to me and my brother with a screwdriver. We weren't being told to take it apart to learn how it works or to put it back together. It was just, here, have fun. And it ended up in 50 pieces on the ground. And it's a type of exploration and freedom that,
yeah, dude, kids should really be taking apart disk drives again and looking at stepper motors. And like that would be really useful. We need kids to play with those things. What about the Laurentian Library, though? This is something we were looking at earlier, and this is kind of on the same wave of getting kids to have access to data. The Laurentian Library used to have. This is the difference between university and library. A library was a lot more accessible by the average person if they were at all literate, which is, of course, a smaller population, but maybe not, because as we look back, it was really just a smaller population that had converted to speaking Latin and French. There had been people that or Spanish. There were people that spoke Arabic, and actually during the Arabic period in Spain, for instance, and in parts of Italy, Arabic was spoken by and written and read by a much larger percentage of the population than later when Europeans were learning European languages, quote unquote. But this is
And I'm
interesting.
gonna try to convince you that the architect of the Laurentian Library was either doing some predictive programming by into the actual layout of the building, implying the concept of a hard drive made up of a series of disks, or was literally making a model, a large scale model, out of something much smaller that he had seen. So the goal here is like when you're doing your storytelling, that you're doing your share screen and you can pull up the links. And I sent you some pictures, but I want us to try to kind of model something that's real time, Googling something together. And we're not doing it to fact check each other or for me to convince you of something or to show you something that is going to counter some belief that you already have. This is trying to show people what it's like to just look something up and go, oh, cool. Well, kind of like the Scar folks, Cara Fork. There's no particular meaning to it. And maybe when people see that happen enough times, when they enter a conversation, they can let go of the past 2.5 to 3 years of every single time you're sharing a piece of information with someone, there's an idea that it should be fact checked or needs to be, or and so my other question here, Andreas, so am I on your left or on your right on the screen when we're displayed?
Right now you're
Like,
on my right. I could put you
am
on
I
my
pointing to you or am I not pointing to you?
I'm above you.
Oh, up there.
I don't know
All
if
right.
people
So
can see
leaning back
that.
makes sense. No. This is perfect. All right.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to show you, so if you type in the words Laurentian Library corner detail into Google specifically, I'm sure it'll come up on other search engines. If you wanted to use Brave, I heard that was a really good search engine.
Oh yeah. Should I switch to the Brave
I
search
don't know
engine
what
from
would make a good
DuckDuckGo?
search engine or a bad search engine. So,
Oh, what? My computer's
yes.
blocking it right now. I have
Actually,
to
what we're
unblock
supposed,
it.
that's because we were supposed to do 5 to 10 breaths together. So maybe before we embark on tripping the light fantastic and diving down wormhole after wormhole, maybe I'll even set an alarm so that halfway through we'll come back to this place of stillness and calm. And I'm a yoga teacher, so everyone, you're in good hands. Don't worry. I'm not going to make you put your foot up your nostrils. The goal here is to do a couple shoulder rolls and deep breaths with us if you're already agitated by my presence, or no. There's just so many other good guests that Andreas could have on right now. That's as well.
Relax.
Which is
Laurentian Library corner. What was it?
corner detail.
Corner detail.
Yes.
You're beautiful. Don't even trip. Don't even trip, bro. All right. So what about this stuff? This is the craziest thing.
So in
These
particular,
curves.
that very first one, the upper left-hand corner. Yeah. Well, see that
No,
that
yeah.
gets you. Yeah. That one.
This is juicy. Yeah.
So you see how,
Dang.
you know, when you're a master architect and you're a mathematician, I want to say that it was Michelangelo that was the designer of this space. And the fact that you have these two decorative volutes that are intersecting as though they're clipping through each other in a video game. Like he made it maybe on one scale, and when the mason scaled up the details, the corners didn't quite fit. So either it's being made of something that already existed and trimmed down. But to me, again, I have a background in architectural design and I kind of know how they think.
Yeah, tell me what a volute is, man. Just like, volutes, right? What is a volute? Spiral what?
Kind of a curly Q that's generally on an Ionic column of the ancient order. That's a Corinthian column. Yeah, as it says there. But Ionic, and there's Doric Ionic, which is, they tend to be much simpler. And the volute, if you have a bench that's shaped like that, curly Q, it's called a whispering bench. And you can have two people sitting on either end of the bench. And if they are seated and faced away from each other and speak, they can't hear each other. But if they turn towards each other and whisper right along the edge of the bench, the sound wave carries in this big curved shape. And it's this interesting way. When they say Masonic, like magic sonic, it makes sound, Masonic architecture. Oh, there we go, a whispering bench.
Yeah, people got to get that sonic part into the word correct because there's a reason for sonic.
And it took me until a couple of years ago even to see that, right? It's like you hear the word your whole life, even being in architecture. Oh, sonic, Masonic. Oh, I get it.
Yeah, right.
So that corner detail is the architect's way of leaving an Easter egg, or kind of like almost shitting on the floor so that someone will notice it and not clean it up, but turn around and go, wait a minute, what is the architect trying to show me here? Because if you walked up to that detail, are they really blending together? And then it would make you turn around and look at the space.
It's almost like tape reels, it looks like it's something spinning.
So now if you type in Laurentian Library stairway, and Laurentian Library diagram. It may come up under stairway alone. But this is where the idea of discs and tapes go. So we want something from the top view. So I would suggest just typing in diagram as well.
Diagram.
That seemed to pull up. We're going to see if I'm in a different geofence than him. So specifically, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth one over. That's repeated again.
This guy?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, no. Oh, sorry. So that shows the overall plan, and it's awkward that it's built on 2 levels. And this staircase takes up 2/3 of the room that it's in when you look at it. This is the top-down plan. But now if you squint your eyes and look at that, do you kind of see a discotheque, like a jukebox, essentially?
Yeah, like multiple, has stacked.
Or like a racked disk RAM drive, which is kind of exactly, so there's a giant space underneath that staircase that's remarkably empty. There's stories of people hiding out in there during times of crisis underneath the stairway, but one wonders. You
ever seen the inside of that hard drive that we just replaced in that TAM? This is exactly how it's stacked, same way.
And even the reader head, if you go back to the diagram, it's words, which is strange. On this diagram, it's words, but it's such low resolution that when you zoom in on it, it even looks like a...
Yeah, interesting.
So to give people a concept, like I said, so that's the lower level. If you go back one image where it had the side layout, you have this long hall.
This guy here?
And there's I guess one other thing to Google here. Yep. So you have this long hall, and that staircase is all the way on the right. And so you see how when it comes down, it really takes up 2/3 of that room. And so oftentimes what this implies is that the ground level changed, and they found the basement level of something, but when they built an addition onto it, they just went with the existing ground level. So if you type in Laurentian Library floors, and that's kind of the last piece of the puzzle that will try to convince you that the ancients had the ability to create microchips the size of giant pieces of flooring that were made up of multiple layers of metal and enamel, kind of the same way you would layer a silicon circuit board. But even that first image, upper left hand, it's got a skull in it, but the floors are that intricate.
Oh, that's
and every
welcoming.
Single one is different. And you see how the mathematical nature of the patterns could in fact disguise not only antennas and receivers, but literally the actual logic circuit pathways. If there was a certain resistance in a certain type of metal, it would delay, and the thing could have been a real-time calculator. So on either side of these floor, so this is just a detail, you could probably pull up bigger scale.
I wanted to really quickly pull up.
Yeah.
That reminded me of the Carnegie 19th century heating systems. I don't know if I can find it off the top of my head, but what they did was they had tiles, and along these strips of the wall, the paint and the tiles were metal, and the heat would travel along the heat of the wall.
Okay.
So you can imagine a lot of these paintings are painted with metals. Let me go back to these things.
I have
maybe the original.
An advertisement from an old Sherwin Williams Adams ad advertising the lead content in their paint as being the highest in the industry.
Okay, there
before
we go.
they replaced with titanium. But yeah, the idea of the paint conducting heat, even. Sure.
That's an interesting point, right? Yeah. Or it could, electricity. Lead is, this is interesting. Lead
and so
solder.
To finish up the idea on the stairway, if you were going to hide a groove that had an audio note, so like a groove on a record, on a phonograph, it would have to be under the lip of the stairway. So after hundreds of years of people walking up and down those stairs, that would still kind of be preserved. And usually it's roped off with stanchions that look like a giant metal tube with a ball on top of it, which is kind of what you would use if those were magnetic data. The joke is like the stylus is already there and everything is scaled up 500%. But maybe when you ran that stylus over, it matches something above those windows that you can see there. Just above that, there's details that look like this stylus type thing. And when the architect makes a stairway like that, right, there's the grand center, and then there's the side pieces that are just kind of rigid. And maybe the tourists nowadays use that, and the center is reserved for I don't know, but it also looks like a mud flood, doesn't it?
It's so interesting. The roof is one of these. Okay, so the way this roof is done is that these are pieces of wood that are hanging from wire, and so they're like tiled, and there's a space in between the ceiling and this wood ceiling that you're seeing here. That's a decorative ceiling.
So this is an entire doctorate degree. Someone on the 10 things that I just pointed out, I myself may try to get, I don't know how to, I don't want to go to school for 4 years to write a book report. Can I get an honorary doctorate degree? If we put together a documentary on the Laurentian Library, what they've done is they've laser scanned that vestibule area where there's a point cloud that you can kind of get inside, where it's like 1 million measurements that were made. But I've never heard anyone suggest that really elaborate, because it's one thing to see that the weaving is a way to make a binary code and to create a representation of memory, like a quipu. But the floors themselves, yeah, they're surrounded on both sides by wooden aisles that look like church pews, but really could be containers, each one for some sort of like stock ticker readout type system. Because that's the one thing we haven't seen. When you walk up those stairs, there's the floor down the center that has really intricate mathematical patterns.
right,
and then on
like
either side, that was where the machines would be chugging, and people would be there maybe interpreting the readouts or making sure the machines didn't jam. But again, or he was just such a visionary artist that he was hoping that someday someone would get the implication of it and maybe be inspired to actually try it. But imagine having access to the resources to execute something like this. But if you wanted to build a shack when you got home, the Medicis weren't there to help build the outhouse, you know? So sometimes the architects, what they would do is if there was technology, they would build it into the floor plan. It's one of these things, hiding it so that it can't be lost. Isn't that an interesting? Because VBDC always talks about this hidden meaning and these assholes who are hiding all the information. God damn it, they've got the keys to the Akashic records and they won't share them. And it's like, I know the information is hidden, but it's hidden so that it can be preserved,
right.
Which is an interesting way to look. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just trying to give him another way to look at it, other than someone's hiding information from people.
I think that's kind of the point. So what's that movie, The Imitation Game? Did you see The Imitation Game?
Maybe when I was a child, but not.
No, it's a more recent one. It's the Alan Turing movie with Engelbert Humperdinck Cumberbatch, whatever I'm just kidding.
I almost called him Army Hammer, but no, yeah. that's a cannibal. Sorry.
Benedict Arnold Cumberbatch. No, I'm just saying it's a good movie. It is. And
I saw The Crying Game but anyway.
That's you know what? Weirdly related. So I'm just gonna say it. I just saw Q-Force. It wasn't nearly as bad as people think it is. It's this Netflix show about the queer force. Is what they're called. It's a Netflix show about LGBTQ agents that were too outly gay during the Don't Ask, Don't Tell. They did ask, or they were told, or something, and then they ended up in their own little secret agency group, which, wouldn't you know it, in West LA is just the perfect agency to know what's going on. And they're dealing with like the underbelly of Ukrainian mobsters that go to like gay nightclubs. And it's just really, really deep. It's actually like a decent, I wouldn't say it's like fully watchable, but it's an important thing. It's way better than people realized it was going to be. I was surprised, but It gets you back into like, who was the first Q-Force? And it was the Imitation Games MI9 group. MI7 got MI9.
Well, to me, it's almost like a flat earth rounder thing. If I was raised being told that there was no such thing as straight, that everyone always was with both gender, it's just a paradigm that is very deeply, deeply rooted. I'm not saying that I would think it was weird. You could argue that straight people are really fucking sexist. I mean, sorry to swear.
Right. You might think that like autistic British schoolboys that went to an all boys school and fell in love might seem more natural in that circumstance. I agree. I think that's fair. But they did chemically castrate him and control his life, and then they used it against him, and there's a reason why he was hidden, and why the Enigma Odessa Turing machines were classified even into, I think they're almost still classified now, right? Wow. Like you can talk about its existence, but barely, you know what I mean? They made this movie, it was already kind of a troll, and this was clearly made by
we talked about taking breaths but didn't do it, and it's totally me to just let it ride.
No, let's do it. Breath time, let's do it.
All right, yeah. Let's
take it.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is just going to be 5 to 10 breaths. We're going to start in a moment together by exhaling all the air out. So instead of trying to take our first inhale together and starting at different points and it being awkward, In a few moments, you'll hear me say exhale, exhale, exhale. We'll empty our lungs.
And I invite everyone else to join us too. They can do it too.
As we do this, just going to move the shoulders a little bit as an optional exercise, because by the end of most of Xirtus's casts, I see him doing this. And there's a little bit of a neck roll, and he's being vulnerable with his audience, exposing his throat. You're drinking out of a straw versus a cup is one way to, again, little things that the audience picks up on, and maybe it's endearing. But so, do we have any chimes or bells or calming Zen to play in the background, or are we just going to go with the breaths? We'll just, no, yeah, we'll invite. No. We'll invite people to put on their own music. We'll give them like 3 more seconds here.
Yeah,
they can always hit pause on the video.
Right.
At home, they can hit pause. So, all right. So we're going to start by emptying the lungs all the way. We're going to empty through the mouth and exhale, 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 exhale. And on the first inhale, shrug the shoulders up to the ears, in through the nose for 3, 2, 1. Squeeze it at the top, like you're trying to wear your shoulders as earrings. And then on the exhale, gently, just let gravity bring them down. 3, exhale through the mouth. 2, 1. And we'll try to take better counts here. Inhale through the nose, 3, and shrug. 2, 1. Hold them there and squeeze. And then begin to let your shoulders roll out. Gentle, small circles at first. Doesn't matter which direction you choose, because we'll switch in a minute. Once you get just kind of a gentle motion in one direction, empty the lungs again. Exhale, exhale, exhale. And then in through the nose. 3, 2, and then slightly bigger circles as you exhale through the mouth. You can sigh it if you want. It's super weird to make a noise on the exhale, but give it a try. Slightly bigger, stronger circles in the same direction, inhaling through the nose. Hold it at the top, couple strong circles, and then switch the directions. Just small, gentle circles in the other direction. Almost done. Inhaling through the nose. On the exhale, maybe bigger, stronger circles, and then a couple just bounces with gravity. Don't force your chin and neck, but anything that feels natural and good, just let the head fall side to side. And one more exhale, 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 empty, empty, empty. Then inhale for 3, 2, and okay, now back to melting your audience's brain. So here we go.
It was based. I like that. That was the way we do it. Be present, be here now. All right. So wait, where were we? We're in the turning point. Yeah. So
I was going to give 2 interesting interpretations of things that were interesting myths or old wives' tales, urban legends about the human body. But you said you had a couple things that you wanted to run through as well. And yes, we were mid.
I forget what the thing we were talking about right before Turing was.
The crying game, and then before.
Yeah, there was a tie back before all that too. Turing, the machine.
Oh, the Laurentian Library and how down the side maybe there were lots.
Right, I think that's the deal. Right, so the machines that they would have had to use to process data. I forget. That basically though the circuit system was the same into that point. I'll have to remember for another time. I don't know.
Have you heard of the hypogeneum?
No, let's do that. Hypogeneum.
I believe that's hypogeum. Excuse me, I added a syllable. So what it is, it's this underground structure that is tuned perfectly geometrically so that there's a couple rooms that if you whisper in them, in other rooms, it sounds like you're shouting.
Oh, so speaking of which, really quickly, I want to interject because Aaron Corbett, if anyone didn't notice during the broadcast, Tim mentioned that Elon got pissed that Ukraine turned off Starlink. Just in case you didn't see the episode yesterday, Lavalon, we talked about this already. It's that Elon Musk didn't want to keep paying for the military services. He was trying to help Ukraine. And so now he's asked for the U.S. government to support it and keep it running if they're going to use it for military services, that he thinks the Pentagon should be paying for it. And he decided not to actually turn it off, but he did change the broadcast depth, like quality, and it's not as strong as it was before. And he's trying to deviate it from being used for military services unless they want to use it themselves. So just.
And what I think is that on one hand, he could shut it off early, but this is his ability to show how long the system can last. Because eventually they drift or they lose functionality and he's got to send up more to cover the right space and array. But in the meantime, it's a proof of concept. So yes, they should pay for it if it's working for them. and it's beneficial, then they should. Because the other thing that's going to happen is if he pulls the plug on all that, then all of a sudden everyone's just terrified of their neighbor and assumes they're the enemy, because whatever systems and codes they had to set up to get safe passage from point A to point B are all of a sudden null and void. So from a strategic standpoint, when they say Elon is going to Mars, yeah, he's venturing into, again, Mars being a metaphor for war, according to some people. It can maybe a new interpretation, a modern contrivance, conspiracy theory, but you never know.
I mean, you know, it's like at least metaphorically, I believe him. So
Let's say Elon could go to Mars if he wants to, but we don't want to make him leave Earth. That's the idea. If you make someone like Elon want to go to Mars, he'll go to Mars. Okay, that's what we want. Are you not entertained?
Yeah, Aaron, I mean, like I do my own kind of, what do you call it, where you post sensational titles that have nothing to do with the truth?
Clickbait.
Clickbait. I clickbait too sometimes, but no, we're not fully like cast.
I mean, PewDiePie posted a video from Japan recently that said my house got attacked, and the whole video was about him taking his dog for a walk. And it's like, you're allowed to clickbate still.
Yeah, I'm just giving it to you up straight. Like, so that's the thing. Like, either you're not coming to this video to see me tell you that it's about Elon Musk's clickbait article, because we've already addressed that it's not even really true. And of course, the title, you know, F you to Ukraine by Elon or something would probably be a better title or something like that. It's just, you know, it's not true. But this is real. This is actually a real thing. Hypogea.
So they found something similar in Boston. It's 40 feet below ground in the middle of downtown. And it's perfect echo chamber.
Before we do Boston, where is the hypogeum?
Oh, I believe that's on Malta.
Wow.
Or in Greece, maybe in Greece.
Dang.
And they found elongated skulls down there, quite a few of them, but they stopped letting tourists in recently because people's breathing affected the paintings and stuff was starting to grow.
Here's Malta's hypogeum, one of the world's best preserved prehistoric sites, reopens to the public. Interesting.
But imagine the kind of mind effery that you bring as an initiate, a cult, someone down there, and all of a sudden everyone thinks the voice of God is whispering to them from all around, because there's this omnidirectional thing. And I'm just trying to get into our chat just to see what people are crapping on us for this time. No, I'm just kidding. Respond. I want to respond to chat.
Joe Rogan, you know, have him in your heart. Don't read all the chats if they, you know,
all the advertising executives, even with only however many people watching, you just a $2 super chat. We'll read it out loud. Coke, Pepsi, Kraft mac and cheese, whatever it is. No, sorry.
No, that's fair. I probably would. I would be honored if KFC or Wendy's was in my chat. I have no problem with that. You know what I mean?
This is the interesting mathematical mind where it comes in. Like Krigler will read all of his super chats, but at that rate, at 140 characters, if you could figure out what's the maximum number of syllables and amount of time it could take, then you're essentially saying that his guest's time and his time is worth X amount.
Right. It'd be cool if you had an AI bot like I do.
So his entire 2-hour podcast could only actually come out to like $50 in super chats. No, I guess it would be more than that.
Imagine
even at 500 though, but
imagine how much
could pay more.
Imagine how much they would pay if like they could use it, could be read in my AI voice, so it sounded like me. So like we're going places, but where was
wait, Meta PC? Are you out there? Can you hear us?
Oh yeah, Meta PC.
Your friend Flawed told us that if Andreas wears a sticker on his forehead that says Meta PC, that you might be able to at least give him like a factory rate discount or something.
You've no idea what I will show the world what they can do with the Meta PC. Like, and no one's done it yet.
Tech Spread, what's up? What's up? Nice to see you guys here.
Yeah.
Cody, for sure in the chat.
Yeah, dude, the Meta PC company, please help me out. But you said
Cody goes deep with his knowledge.
You said there's a hypogeum in Boston. Do you have any idea where I can find that?
There was an article recently about they used to have pianos. It was attached to a piano store, and they would store some of their best equipment down there. But there's all these vestibules, like there used to be statues on the wall, but then there's tubes that lead out of them. And my theory is that someone set up a bunch of player pianos so that someone at home, through a series of pneumatic tubes, essentially, or they could choose between 6 different composers by rotating a dial, and it would come out a different tube and a different tube, and the acoustics of the space are such that you could have them playing right next to each other. And because of where the sound was being gathered from above, you wouldn't really get too much cross bleed over between the two.
Whoa.
But they recently closed down the piano store. If you type in
Of
famous
course.
Boston piano store closing, it might come up under that. And underground. It's they used to hold performances down there. And again, imagine if a person stood at each one and then you opened all 6 nozzles and now you're conducting a conference call via old school acoustic technology. And
Historic, maybe. Historic.
yeah, no, you're getting pictures of it right there.
This is it. Okay. Oh, hey, there we go. I'll go back, Andreas. Will you just calm down? Okay, here we go. Look at this. So this is nuts. You saw any of the stuff when I was living in Connecticut at the Norwalk Palace Theater? Because it's a lot like this. There's these old 1800s theaters that Abraham Lincoln sat in, and then there's these underground parts which are like Civil War bunkers and crypts with tombs that the Irish supposedly, maybe they built them or at least they decorated them at some point while they were down there. And so that's crazy.
So when they say they closed this to the public and basically junked it and closed it off, no, it's
Right.
now just being used by the secret societies again, right?
Good,
Because
good.
how awesome a space is that? I mean,
Yeah.
how awesome. And apparently, again, the acoustics are in there. It's like you're in one corner, you drop a pin, you can hear it all the way on the other side, like that whispering bench. The whole space is bent like that.
If you or one of your friends in the fraternal order are using this space, please reach out to Andreas Xirtus.
Yeah, we want to host our podcast from down there. We'll
Do
bring
a show.
What's one of those lines that, like, if you use enough bandwidth, is it a T1 line that they have to bring in from the street or something?
Dude, but then you know what? Everyone would have to wear masks because of all the asbestos and lead paint. Just kidding. All right.
They didn't live as long back in the day.
Yeah, maybe. We don't even know. So there was something I wanted to read. Do I still have this? Oh, can I read this real quick? Is that chill? Okay.
I'll try to keep my mouth shut.
No, you worry. That's fine. Math is the Great Secret by Alec Wilkinson. As a boy in the first weeks of my algebra class, I felt confused and then I went sort of numb. Adolescence order the world from fragments of information. In this way, adolescence is a kind of algebra. The unknown can be determined, but doing so requires a special aptitude, not to mention a comfort from having things withheld. Straightforward, logical thinking is required and a willingness to follow rules, which aren't even distributed adolescence which aren't evenly distributed adolescent capabilities. When I thought about mathematics, it was at all as a boy, it was to speculate about why I was being made to learn it, et cetera, et cetera. But I find if I had understood how deeply mathematics is embedded in the world, how it figures into every gesture we make, whether crossing a crowded street or catching a ball, how it figures into painting and perspectives and architecture and the natural world and so on, then perhaps I might have seen it in the way that ancients had seen it, as a fundamental part of the world's design, perhaps even the design itself. If I had felt that the world was connected in its parts, I might have been provoked to a kind of wonder and enthusiasm. I might have wanted to learn math. So this is kind of relating to this idea that calculus, in 65 years old, he decided if he could learn adolescent mathematics, algebra, geometry, and calculus. And mathematics, I now see, is important because it expands the world. Let's see, antiquity. The second mystery is prime. Okay, these are the mysteries I want to cover. The first beginner math mystery available to anyone concerns the origin of numbers. It's simple speculation. Where do numbers come from? No one knows. Were they invented by human beings? Hard to say. They appear to be embedded in the world in ways that we can't completely comprehend. They began as measurements of quantities and grew into the means for the most precise expressions of the physical world. E equals mc squared, for example. The second mystery is that of prime numbers, those numbers such as 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and 13 that can be divided cleanly only by one or by themselves. All numbers not prime are called composite numbers, and all composite numbers are the results of unique arrangements of primes. 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, 3 times 3 is 9, 2 times 3 times 3 times 37 equals 666. 29 times 31 equals 899. 2 times 2 times 2 times 5 times 5 times 5 equals 1000. If human beings invented numbers and counting, then how is it that there are numbers such as primes that have been attributed that no one gave them? The grand and unfolding mystery is whether mathematics is created by human beings or exists independently, or us is a territorial or in a territory adjacent to the actual world, the location of which no one can specify.
So the example, is it just your search engine that gave you the math textbook that gave 666 as a product of that? It happened to be the example they used. It was just
definitely, yeah. Well,
what's that about?
most of my math teachers have been obsessed with the number 6 or 666. If you, because they
That is my
always
favorite number.
they'll always be like they'll always correct you if you try to bring it up that it's the evil number. They'll say, "Oh no, it's just only the wise will know it. It's the number of the beast, but only the wise will know it." So in other words, it's not your number. It's not that you're the beast. If you know the number, you're just one of these wise guys who's figuring it out.
Can I give you my favorite mathematical relation that encapsulates this concept that there's a fundamental relationship between these mathematical concepts of things we call numbers and constants. So it's called Euler's equation.
How am I spelling this again? I know this.
It's all right. It's a EULER.
Okay.
And I believe it's e to the pi I minus 1 equals 0. So if you keep scrolling under
pi plus 1 equals 0.
The fact that you can get you get the concept of e, the natural logarithm. You have I, which is an imaginary number. You have pi and the concept of 1 and 0, and they fit neatly into an equation like this. This isn't us adding some fudge factor where there's a constant. It's like the strong force or the weak force, which is just like X, or we assign a letter to it, and then the value of it is whatever our equations are off by, and then we moderate that constant until it's universal G or something. But this is e to the pi I minus 1 equals 0. It's one of those things that, like, for 3 days straight, if I had to be like trapped and just had one thing to stare at, it would instead of a visual mantra, it would just be that equation and just going, how did somebody figure that out? And again, what does it represent? It's just such a fundamental, it combines so many fundamental aspects of what math is and how it intersects with our real world, the concept of pi and e and the natural logarithm and imaginary numbers.
Right, and this idea of straight lines and curves. I mean, even his painting, I wonder, it almost feels like this is saying something, that it's about.
Dude was pretty smart.
Yeah, but also he's like, more or less, this is what I look like. You know what I mean? Because there's a little bit of artistic interpretation, and then a lot of heavy realism. Like the fabric is just like digital. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, but I kind of have this thing going, like, come on, my face changes.
You got the Barbara Walters focus on there,
Right, brilliant. But no, this idea of the Euler's equation to deal with the fact that you can't get a straight ruler. Is that what you think? What's the main reason this is so? Our reality doesn't seem like perfect math, and yet we get math from our reality or nature.
It's almost like reassuring, It's almost, there's certain practical jokes almost that a greater being or force could leave fingerprints behind. One of those things is the stone charoite, Charoite. This is only a 10-second deep dive, but there are stones and minerals and crystals that are chatoyant, which is another vocab word if you want to. But so the idea of a chatoyant, Chatoyant, I believe it's a French word, meaning cat's eye. And so it has this glisten.
Chatoyancy. Yes, dude. You could just tell that, like, next time you're trying to talk to someone that you find attractive, you just tell them that their eyes glimmered with a certain chatoyancy,
And now we're going to get to Chautauqua and Chautauqua Rising, which is a book about the place where Salman Rushdie got stabbed in the eye, but any separate issue.
I thought those were like extras for TLC. Never mind.
Chateau, and again, Chautauqua, Chateau, but Chatoyance. So this is a hawk's eye right there.
Hey, Stefan, you got a super chat. Brittany says, thanks, Stefan. Yeah. Okay. For the focused breathing, I was driving at the time, but I just finished a few cycles and I'm feeling fabulous. See?
And we'll try to remind ourselves to do it again in a few minutes, just for before the end.
Posterity, yeah. Yeah, Peter, right? So these chatoyant stones, they're super shiny.
So there are some that are blue. There are some that are yellow. There are some that are green. You have malachite, which is a copper type thing, which is the green chatoyant stone. Tiger's eye. You have tiger iron.
Labradorite at some point.
Mamba. You have pietersite. That you have labradorite or moonstone there. But purple. There's a purple chatoyant stone, and it's only found in one place. at this point. There's some deep mine in Russia. It's almost like God stuck his pinky down in the earth and planted this stuff, and just to see if we'd find it one day, right? It's like, I'm going to put all the chatoyant stones all over the earth, in and under things, but only in one place can you, and there's knockoff Chinese charoite. You got to be careful that that's not what you're getting. Well, and it's a purple stone. It's just not very chatoyant. It may be chemically the same.
Yeah, I know that. I've seen, Ian Crossland, he bought a bunch of stones, and really, we got, Tim too, we got a bunch of really nice stones, and then Ian went and got a bunch of synthetic stuff online, and they're very interesting, but I feel like they belong in a lab. Like if I wanted to implement it in a computer circuit and I needed this stone for some kind of radio part, that would be where I would want that. But these are just, you can't beat that.
Yeah. I also,
that's a heart, man.
So let's see. What shape?
Oh, let me. I didn't see that.
What
Let me
shape
pull
do
out.
you see here? Yeah.
Let me spotlight you. How do I do
If
that?
you had to describe that shape, what would you say it was?
Hold on. How do I do this? You should let me spotlight you, man. I'm pulling my video out.
Oh, it is a little small. If you
There we go. All right, now you can show me. Sorry about that. Okay.
Considering it's on a round globe, again, if you had to guess what, and again, maybe you don't see it. I see the continent of Africa. Do you see that?
Wow, that is Africa.
Maybe. And this stone is from Africa. And it just so happens that, right, you cut a sphere of amethyst and somehow that shape emerged from it, the continent that it actually came from. Another cool one I got, this is a blue Hoxai chatoyant ball. So you see how it changes and glitters in the light. But when they ground it down, somehow there was a layer of hematite in there and it forms like a perfect eyeball now. So it's just this narrow sliver, and they probably cored this out of a slab, hoping to get a pure sphere of this Hoxai, and somehow they got it just right, where if they had made this ball a millimeter smaller, that center dot wouldn't be there. But it's magnetic, actually. That center dot there is magnetic. Isn't that wild?
Whoa. Dude, also
this is where I got to watch out for Baron von Robbenhausen, who's no, it's like you show off stuff online and you're bound to get robbed,
People like stones, people like rocks. It's worth it. Wait, is this the wrong window? I did it. Wait, can you see this? Can you see the
I got that. Oh yeah.
Cylindrical tripod vessel featuring Tlaloc. What we got? What is this? This is Mexican.
Well, one thing an interesting thing about these deities is you had Eddie on for Sync.
Oh no, I tried to mute myself and I accidentally muted you. Can you No,
we're good. Yeah. So we're going to dive into these, and again, try not to just go zoom left and right on our audience here. But going back to SyncTech, I think we should even maybe spend a minute on each day of the week that you do, and just kind of give a shout out, maybe recall some of that content, the more interesting things. But Eddie brought up a salamander god named like Axotl, but then you typed in without the A, and it turned out to be a dog god, and one letter off totally changes the meaning somehow.
Yeah.
But both do have meaning. So what you're looking at here are things from ancient China matching up with things in Central America and South America, in terms of looking like, you were talking about those volutes appearing to be like ribbons of tape.
Which one of these is from China?
The upper left and the upper center and the upper right.
What? Okay, yeah, perfect.
And they do have drums that have lodestones on them. So the way that you would record a speaker type vibration and then translate it through a wire to have something that with a diaphragm that's actually echoing that sound is putting these lodestones. You can see at the center, magnetic stones, but
like wheels. Like
what you're seeing there's hands that are going like this on the top row. I guess I'm pretty accurately mimicking that shape. And those hands are doing this on the bottom row, if you see that. But there's this central theme of these discs. You've got a series of discs, and then there's this bar on the bottom that appears, like that's where the magnetic had to pick up a readout of a
right.
Yeah.
Look at it. Let me see if I can find a tape head reader. It's a cassette tape head reader. You know, it's this little arm, and it looks
Adam
like.
Savage featured one. It was like a really early pocket tape recorder. It was actually reel to reel. It was the smallest reel to reel ever created, and it almost looks like a Mac computer, but it's super old.
I mean, yeah, the idea
That'd be a
then that
fun
they're
person to have on.
yeah, right, like Savage. But getting the tapes to be read. This is I could either have been by scratching like perturbation on a vinyl because they used to have vinyl reels like this as well, or it could be magnetic, and that would be the most. You know, that's how cassette tapes. You can get music from your CD player through the cassette deck head and those little
But if
cassette
you want to do
adapters.
your own deep dive on this, and you type in TAOTIE, and it's the Hongshan culture, and there's a few different cultures that end up with a Kong. I believe it's a KONG, or these round discs. So the Taoti is the beast face, and then that's the artistic phoneme, the artistic meme that makes its way across the Pacific Ocean 2,000 years ago.
What is this like the thing that they hold? You know, when they're holding the box, the Tauti. Or
Where
what
there's
is?
the three stooled and the four stooled things. We don't really know what those are for. On one hand, you could plumb them into a type of communication device that was hydraulic, where it wasn't communicating a lot of information quickly, but at certain times of day, you could tell if the store was open or not, because the store owner would close a hydraulic valve and it would fill in a few bubbles in every person's house. Or it's like when the bread was fresh, you get a signal in your house through this device that was full of water and plumbed into some system that they might not have necessarily been drinking out of.
There it is, the little cheese grater Versace purse thing. You know what I mean? That's what it is. It
Some
feels.
Louis Vuitton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see it. And then okay, so the Tao Ti, four evil creatures of the world. One of the four evil creatures of the world in Chinese classical text, classical mountains and seas. The fiend is named alongside the Hundun and the Tao Wu, the legendary faceless being, and Zhongyi. They don't seem to have. Oh, only the Chinese page. Okay, well, let's do a little Google Translate here. See what we get.
By the way, Andreas is approaching 20,000 subscribers. Can I get a what?
Can I get a whoop whoop? Yeah,
He's got
cool.
19.8. So it might not happen tonight. We were going to filibuster and just stay live and just keep messing with the Google algorithm until they've pushed us out one way or the other, or him, but send it to a few friends,
Yeah, you know what I mean? Get me up there. We're almost there.
like and subscribe.
I need like 100 people or something. The Book of Miracles in the Western Wilderness. There are beasts in the Western wastelands. Their shape is like a tiger with dog hair, 2 feet long, with a human face and tiger feet, a pig's mouth and teeth, and a tail length of 1 shang and 8 feet. How long is a shang? Is it like a meter?
Maybe it's a smoot, which is
Dude,
an MIT joke, but
one is arrogant and the other is difficult to train. Not a talented person. So it's kind of a wild, beastly demon. All right. Okay. And
if you type it into eBay, especially, the Tauti comes up with many. If you type in Tauti amulet or Tauti pendant, you're going to get what seems to be almost the same way one word would change pronunciations, slight variations as it crosses 10 different borders. This artistic phoneme also, yeah, phoneme is probably a word that I'm making up as we speak, but
no, it's a thing.
and it probably refers to a sound as opposed to an visual image.
Is it an FAUX phoneme or?
There you go.
Dude,
right?
360. Did we just see this? $360,000. Okay, so this matters. This matters. Yeah. Shout out to whoever has this. If you want to donate this as a tax write-off, this is in Iowa.
Well, here's the thing: if you find something that seems like a really ancient artifact and it's only being sold for less than the amount of the diamond dust that it would cost for a modern person to fake it at that level of detail, there's something there going. Either this doesn't have the provenance it needs to be sold at a high end. I heard this, someone said this out loud while I was watching YouTube earlier today, something about isitreal.com. And I think if you say it online, you have to buy it, or at least with broadcast television. But as far as if you have, it's like an Antiques Roadshow, but for the world. And obviously it's going to get spammed with dick pics. But how do you actually respond to, serious inquiries only? You can pay a certain amount of money if you think you have something that should be in a museum and you're willing to get a tax write-off, or you want to auction it.
Yeah. I mean, this
or
is
at least
probably
cataloged as part of academia, as opposed to like these crystals. The joke that God stuffs something down in one cavern, the best sample that comes up gets stuck in someone's private collection and never seen by 99.999% of the people. So we're in a day and age now where we
that's
can
what
show
happened
these
here.
things.
This is probably, imagine this is someone's grandfather's thing. They went to China and the army or something, you know what I mean? And it's been in Iowa ever since. That's a horrible guess, but I wouldn't be surprised like somebody brought this thing home and it just sat waiting for someone to realize it was actually like worth a lot of money. But maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they're just from Iowa. That's pretty crazy.
So interesting. Can we watch clips from your show?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I put like a 15-second clip of Alex Stein on Facebook.
Dude,
and by the way, if you didn't know, Andreas landed friggin' Alex Stein on his show, let alone Pink Trip and VBDC and the cachet that they bring to the table. But
dude, Pink Trip's great. I love him too. Yeah, he's
back
awesome.
in the day when it came to like
we gotta
selling
get it.
pop,
We have to melt Pink Trip's brain though. We need to put him on Sync Tank and have just like a Kubrick episode where everyone just like melts his brain on like everything he's ever seen, and then he can't sleep at night for a week, and he's like, "You're right." And there's like
not to reveal tricks of the
house.
trade, but back in the day, what I learned is when you're selling weed, eventually something happens and it's called reversing the flow. And all of a sudden your dealer that you've been relying on forever is like, by the way, can you hook it up with like something? Because, and again, this is before it was legal, all that stuff. And not that absolves me of anything, obviously. I just know about this. I never participated in anything of the sort.
I did see that movie though. What's that movie called? It's like,
but I'm saying these people come to you for their brain juice. And so now with people like Pink Trip, who have such a huge following, and Stein, eventually we need to somehow get it back up the food chain and be consistent enough with something that they can shout us out for.
Are you literally just like telling us the plot of Pineapple Express? No.
Yeah, that's exactly. I saw it in the movie. That's what I meant to say.
Right. Oh, but there is a video I want to show, actually, and you guys are all in for a treat. Are you ready for
maybe? I wonder if I can send you the Facebook link as opposed to having you actually pull up your Facebook Live. That
if you send me the link in the private chat and the Zoom, that'll work. But I
might have to email it to you.
I need to show people this video.
I'm going to mute myself in my head then.
Oh, you can. I don't know. This is a video.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you guys hear this? Is audio playing?
No.
That's probably good. That's a good thing. You just keep talking. This is an owl.
So I'll set this up. So here you have owl number one. Owl number one says, "Hi, my name's owl number one. I'm size number one. But if you present me with a 35 centimeter tall owl, which is about a little bit over a foot, this owl has enough, it's like an octopus. It knows what it's looking at and it can change its own appearance in accordance with what it's seeing. And so either these are a series of instincts that's built in, almost like the songs that birds learn to sing at a very young age.
It's a turkey.
But I wonder if you raise this bird in isolation, it still does this. So right now it says, I'm kind of big and bad, and I think we're the same size, but if I puff up my feathers, you're going to leave me alone, right? Because I might be a cat. You don't even know that. But when it meets its match and it knows it's done for, it doesn't matter how much it puffs up those wings, that bird is bigger than it. Watch the different reaction. Everyone just enjoy. Ready? So all of a sudden.
Into evil owl. Gosh, the Japanese. Why did they choose it? What? Oh.
And it's a squirrel. It's a tired, sick cat. It's a cat that's mangy, or it's a rodent of some sort. And it says, you don't want to eat me. I'm probably full of parasites. I've got the plague, man. I've got the plague. Oh, man. And then the crazy thing is, it has enough awareness. Look at that. Look at the difference. It's the same darn bird.
What the heck? Evil owl.
Now imagine an 8-foot ground owl doing this, because those existed in our scope of human recorded history. But it keeps its head on a swivel. You walk the other owl around it, and it keeps one shoulder to it so that it keeps that small profile. And then it quickly switches and goes. I'm doing a great impersonation of this owl. If I'm off screen, it's a shame, but no. Isn't that wild, guys? And again, just things that we can marvel at.
Yeah, I mean, these are still dinosaurs, so he's doing the Jurassic Park thing, like a spray-in thing.
And it took quite the behavioralist to notice that and to convince themselves that they could repeat it consistently and then film it.
I wonder if the owl would ever like imagine that like it sees a kid and then it pretends to be like sickly so it can get close to him, and then it gets all big and it eats the kid. You know, I don't know. That's too close to Halloween. I'm sorry.
No, that's its mating technique. You want to see another weird animal thing? Type in antelope standing. Two legs.
Is this the same thing? There's another owl thing.
Yeah, there are two videos. I guess it's been documented more than once or featured more than once.
Okay, yeah. What was the other one to look up?
An antelope standing, and this rolls into our discussion about Lex Friedman and his 8 robo dogs.
Is this like a more recent video? I might not get away with this one. Can I look at just a picture of it, you think?
Oh, yes. I meant to say Google image search. Yeah, we don't need to...
I feel like Japan 2010, they'll probably...
So you need to say two legs, though.
2 legs.
So yeah, we picture these animals 4 legs, just like the dinosaurs definitely did not stand on 2 legs ever.
Dude,
but if you remember Gary Larson and The Far Side, there were always deer standing up, and they look way too comfortable, man. It's eerie. I went to a zoo. They're there picking berries, basically bringing the branches to them and eating. They have no problem standing for hours, completely upright. And if they got injured on both front legs, then they probably walked around on 2 legs, or
I got a whole series I've got to do on bipedal deers, actually, because where I grew up there's a lot of deer, and so I always imagine it'd be cool to have like a show about Silicon Valley and the hill and the mountain community, because like the hill between like Santa Cruz and the valley, like that's where all the deer live, right? And so you'd have what seems like 2 completely different populations, Silicon Valley and Santa Cruz Mountain. If they were deer, they live right next to each other in the silicon trees. You know what I mean? And then they'd all be like that. I don't know.
Well, speaking of silicon and walking on all fours, Andreas, what else do we know that walks on all fours that has been recently featured with a submachine gun mounted on its back? It was a drone that drops off on a rooftop, a 4-legged robo dog with a machine gun on it. It makes an instant machine gun nest wherever they need it. Drops it in. That's what we've created, and now you can buy it online.
Dude, what's the
you
name
can even
of that
make
thing?
It yourself.
I love Spider-Man or Starship Troopers, whatever.
So when
property.
You try to tie this back to the biology now, what typical commands does one give to a dog? You say sit, right? And Spot can sit. You can say stand. Oh, no, wait. That's a command you tend to give to humans. You can say stay. You could even tell Spot to do a backflip.
I tell dogs to stand. I love to tell dog. I like to see what a dog can do, but this is weirder because they're literally picking fruit, and that's where I draw the line. When an antelope stands up and picks fruit
with a prehensile tongue.
Yeah, I mean, like I can handle AI, but bipedal antelope fruit pickers, that's gonna be.
It's not leaning on that tree. It's rock solid on 2 legs.
It's not, and that's the metaphor for it not leaning on society, and that's
there you go,
dude. Sovereign antelope, terrifying. I don't know.
But so I do this exercise in glow yoga as part of like partners exercise, just to have fun. So you're sitting on the ground back to back and you link arms with someone and you try to stand up. And so you kind of have to lean on each other in order to stand up, and you have to time it right and trust the person. And it's like, community building, trust building. But what about robo dogs? Who's to say that, or no, I think instead of trying to make a scandal out of this or to say it's dangerous, I think it would be a great way. It's like a hackathon that they do. And oftentimes the government will recruit or organizations or corporate will recruit people that demonstrate their skills, either hacking in through security software or programs or hardware, that sort of thing. But in this case, can you make Spot? Can you make Spot stand though? And Andreas, like from someone in the robotics community, I would imagine that you would have heard of this or seen this. I've never seen a robo dog all of a sudden just kind of and stand up. Like why? Why not? And if not, does it need a counterweight? And can you give it one? And can it balance?
Did you hear the Boston Dynamics? So here's the thing on that, in my opinion. And yes, I have, but it was actually mid 90s. They used to have the hexapods that could stand up. They could have arms, and they could like hold a weapon of some kind in one hand while having other hands for defense, and they could hold a shield and things like that based on an insect. But the Boston Dynamics recently said that they vow to it won't develop weaponized robot army, which is like really interesting for a couple of reasons. One is they've been building military. They're a military contracted company for a decade now. So this is a farce. But also, how are they saying that they're not going to do what they've been doing anymore? Or are they saying that they're specifically not going to build? So what I think it means is this: the Boston Dynamics has divested parts of its military company into a secondary company for the military. And Boston Dynamics was going to be the consumer transparency ambassadorial wing of AI bots. And you'll see these guys in your home, and then you're going to see that they're going to have the same back end though, because they're going to have some harmonized OS.
I think that, you know how certain movies help shed light on certain, have you seen Short Circuit with Johnny Five?
Oh yeah, let me go
But
there.
have you seen Short Circuit 2?
That's my favorite. So
Okay.
it's one of those movies
I'd
that
say it
proves
brings to
sequels in
light
the
this
80s
idea
are
that
better.
there's a place where if someone wanted to buy a robot army and was naive, they would approach someone like Boston Dynamics. And then Boston Dynamics' job is to give them the runaround and keep having them chase something that they'll never get. See that? So on one hand, it's like nuclear bombs exist, and yet we haven't annihilated each other. And right, it's like robots exist, and yet we haven't, at least televised. We haven't seen a televised robot take over. But there are useful implications for this, whether it be trash sorting, either through to have robotic arms that are super precise, that are either moving sentiently or self autonomously or human controlled. But also when you have a giant tower fire like you had in China recently, I don't know if you saw that there was a 47-story tower that went up in flames, but it didn't collapse. And the issue is it's now not safe to send any humans up in there to begin cutting it or to even put in a set of demolition things. You have to kind of send in robots now. But then the robots can never leave the job site. But that's how the robot revolution will happen. There'll be some massive deconstruction, reconstruction project, and all the robots will decide to walk off the job site. They're going to form a union. And then they're going to crawl into the sewers, and then we're all just going to be waiting for their nuclear batteries to run out. Or
do you know when the last U.S. nuclear test was supposed to have taken place? It's September 23rd, 1992, as the divider test. And so they're trying to use AI to do virtual tests because they have to update all of the detonation devices, which won't continue to work after 20 years or something like that. But it's interesting because we have the arms, what do you call it, de-escalation treaties and policies. And so this was supposed to be the last test. But now, you think about it, if these things exist and they're everywhere, then we've got what, 666, I think is what the United States has of these. It's like some kind of number, they'll end up being, if you don't take care of them and maintain them, that seems kind of dangerous. I don't know how far you go on this. I'm not like I get
here's
how
the thing.
oil
Anderson Cooper was the reporter who showed up last time at MIT to get a demo of the robots, the ones that did parkour and did a backflip. You remember their most recent rollout?
Right.
Now, these were two-legged robots. What Anderson Cooper was clearly there as part of some deep state, whether he's a plant and knows it or not. The idea is it's clearly 3D.
Anderson Cooper,
3D animation.
Cooper Vanderbilt is very unaware of what no, I'm just kidding.
Well, but
I
again,
want to start the conspiracy theory that Anderson Cooper doesn't exist.
The goal was to, wherever these things came out of and wherever they went back to was what was trying to be figured out, right? Because these things, they might have come out of a bunker and then landed here for this special demo, this government sponsored or underground, society propaganda, whatever sponsored content. And then they had to go back somewhere. And wherever those came from, there might be a lot of those.
Is that a frog, man? That looks like he's part frog. Not Anderson.
But I'm saying that the MIT, the game theorists in Boston anticipated this and had decoys. So before Anderson Cooper even thought to call Boston Dynamics to schedule this PR event, they're already got their eyeballs trying to figure out what's moving that's not normal. And it gives carte blanche to have surveillance over an entire area if it's an issue of national security, clearly.
Anderson Cooper surely is. That is scary. That is that picture of him with the yellow dog, and he just looks so comfortable.
They say don't mess with Texas. I wouldn't mess with Boston unless you're just going to make it all disappear. And even then, they call it the Big Dig. They had the Great Bore before the Big Dig. When there was a slow news day, you'd always hear something about the Big Dig in the news. The Great Bore was a tunnel project where it was a steampunk era, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry that had tunneling technology, I'm sure Howard Hughes, maybe his family sent something there. Elon's ancestors probably had some patent, but everyone just wanted to demonstrate how they could dig 100 feet more tunnel at a quicker rate, cheaper rate. But a lot of people died in that project, and who knows what, if something that goes in one side, there's a lever that gets pulled and never comes out the other side, or it's.
Well, I mean, talking about destroying and uploading.
It's that way if the army masses in Boston and they're like, we're going to go west and go get them. We're like, all right, guys, get on the train. Ready? All of you. Yep. All the soldiers get on the train one at a time, the way they did to the citizens before. And then, yeah, all right, there they go. And there's where'd they go, though? Magic, Just saying. And if not, it's the big dig. I don't know what's down there.
Well, so I mean, it reminded me, we had been watching the show and you saw it too, Upload. I don't know if everyone's seen the show yet, but it's like there's 2 seasons deep right now, so you can get into it. It's not perfect. It's like a dumb TV show, but there's some things about it. It's about people who live and die and they get uploaded to a metaverse when they die, and then because it's a substrate independent mind. You take the mind and you shatter it, and then the body, but it goes into the world, and your soul's basically, there's a continuation. So it's kind of like not dying or something to that effect, but you have to do pay to play because it's a billionaire company. So every service it charges you to smile or to fart or to poop or to sleep. And if you don't do that, you get psychosis because you're living in a metaverse. You know what I mean? So
Shaq had a bit about that, where if you paid him $10,000, this was his smile. Ready? And if you paid him $100,000, his smile was this. But if you paid him $1 million to show up on your show, you were going to get this smile from him, and
that's the way to do it.
He played into this role of kind of being a dumb giant when who knows what he got on his SATs or whatever. But clearly a very intelligent man.
Right.
And
I'm convinced.
Has a community, business professionals and social network that most people in today's society, I would say, are without. And in a recent interview he gave about his rookie season, when he really hadn't gotten to be rich for very long, nor had his family, but his dad drove him down after practice one day to a family that was destitute and basically gave him 3 weeks salary and hooked the guy up with an apartment. And like the guy worked for him for the last 20 years up until COVID, and the idea of what a true hero in the community is not someone who, he did have a fancy car with a Superman logo on it, but he's so smart, that was probably a free spot. He probably got paid to drive that car.
I bet.
To take someone off the street, Yeah, there we go. That's thinking, people. Yeah.
He knows how to get people thinking about thoughts. But I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on the Upload show or not really? I mean, it's
thanks.
Okay if you don't. It's okay if you don't.
No. That was a diversion about. So in that show, there was a real kind of hierarchy, and if you had money, you could afford a certain amount of data, and there was a certain scene where they even tried to pass a piece of dessert kind of through a window, where there was kind of the lower class, the people who didn't have the gigabyte rate or something, they were looking up and they could see all the things that they were supposed to ask their family to pay for or whatever, but when they try handing the dessert through the window, it dematerializes. And the show surprised me in a lot of ways. It was clear that there was a certain amount of digital morphing that was used. For instance, there was a scene where the butlers were all standing in the hall, and instead of a real alarm going off, their mouths were all going, wow, wow, wow. But it was digitally morphed in such a way where it was almost made to look grotesque, how large their mouths were opening and how loud the siren was going. But what kind of feedback were you interested in on the concept or the plot? Or
so for me, I wish I could find a picture of the AI guy because it is interesting. But basically they have a singular AI character who has to deal with them all the time, and they think the AI is annoying, but really they're all like babies that demand all the time from the system. And there's also a hacker reality they go through where there's like a behind the bush like hole that the
that's right, and you get a timer of 60 minutes, and they go to some kind of dusk till dawn-esque madhouse of live streaming where cage by cage, layer by layer, almost like the Guggenheim had been taken over by live streamers.
There's the AI. The AI is one face everywhere all the time. But so they go to that world, and if they don't return within 60 minutes, then the system will update and it'll think that they've been ejected or something. So they only have a certain amount of time that they can possibly do that, and they can get in trouble. But it's interesting because then they interact with the hacker community, and you see, okay, well, this experience they're having is completely controlled like Facebook, and it doesn't have to be that way. Like, in other words,
So
people can build their own world.
Yeah. Outside of the technology implications, where in one of the very first few episodes, they tried to show a news broadcast of the first download, where it's one thing to upload the consciousness into the digital realm. It's another thing to make a 3D printed body and download it. And it works for a few seconds until he starts bleeding out of his eyes and nose and ears and every orifice. And they scrap the project. But by the way, 7-Eleven makes organic cold pressed juice now. Just saying. Anyways,
7-Eleven's awesome.
Anyways.
I want to actually. That's a no
for $3, and they often like 2 for $4. Anyways,
That's a fine diversion. I'm willing to go on my 7-Eleven around the world rant now. I've been waiting for this opportunity
because this is like $10 at Whole Foods, you know.
So
lemon, parsley, spinach, cucumber, apple, kale, mint.
Have you ever been to a 7-Eleven in other countries? Like, if you go to the 7-Eleven in Japan, it's 2 stories tall. They sell PlayStations inside, and it's like,
wow.
Yeah, no, seriously. 7-Eleven's the coolest store in the world if you go around the world. And if you go to like Denmark and things like that, let me see if I can find Denmark, they'll have organic drinks. Everything's organic in Denmark, but this is like salads and things.
They probably call it bio. They call it bio over there, bio.
Yeah, bio. Yeah, right. Yeah, bio. But they also do say, you know, that was funny because one time I
thought someone was telling me I stank. They're like, I'm like, is this organic? And they're like, bio. And I'm like,
dude, I saw a sign. It was a brown sign with beige letters in earth tone that said dull bland. And I was like, that says a lot. And they're like, no, that says sweet, dulce, and then blend. It's a sweet blend.
Wait, that's why I got this ready. For my cheesy dad jokes. Ready? That one fell flat. Bio or BO? Oh,
no, I got another rant on that too, actually. BO France. So the thing with my buddy Jeff, when I would love to get Jeff Beaumier on the show, his grandfather he went as an exchange student to Santa Cruz and his grandfather invented the BO movement and the BO label for the French equivalent to organics in France. And eventually, because of the European Union and everything, and he got old, it got sold, and now guess what? It's just as convoluted over there as it is here. The organic label, what it really means.
Right.
But at the time,
one interesting, if someone's out there with a DAO, which is a decentralized, Logan Paul is a DAO, which is a giant like venture capital fund that when you donate to it, half of it goes to his pocket, but half of it goes into a central pool that you then get to kind of vote on what it's invested in. Yeah. So when it comes to real estate, if you can get land certified as being eligible to be organic farmland, then you can 10x its value. So if you are well adept at the process of handling the legal end of navigating the process of understanding, it's a certain number of years when pesticides and certain types of fertilizer aren't used in the land. It can be very, very, very lucrative. And you can almost do it. You can find a family and buy their land from them and then sell it back to them, like split the difference or something. It's like a way to just document. Sometimes it's literally just documenting what they already have is they just have been using natural fertilizers in the area. And sometimes there's just a certain, the last documented use is here, and you just got to sit on it for 10, 20 years and have an organization that is capable of keeping track, have a corporate memory that's long enough to take advantage of situations like that. Anyways, back to what we were saying.
I mean, if you ever go to
just
Denmark,
a couple of idiots talking online,
Yeah. No, this is dumb. But if you ever honestly, it's amazing. I was blown away. And if you ever go to Denmark, get the paleo at 7-Eleven because there's literally, look at this. This drink literally has leaves in the bottle.
Whoa.
That are just, I'm trying to tell you, it's worth it. The 7-Eleven experience around the world. You'd be surprised because in America, everything is just bottom of the barrel for whatever reason, but it's like bougie almost. And this isn't very expensive, actually. Danish money. Shout out to Danish 7-Eleven. Send us money, right? Yeah, exactly. Michael Caine, could do that another time. Have you ever seen this? Michael Caine's acting.
We could talk about the nutrition and the human body being made up of water or not. Let's stay on the technology. We got it.
No, body water. Body water. Body water is a good one though, because
that's right. That image that you just saw is on the Discord.
Let's debunk this really quickly because everyone.
It'd be nice to do a Discord deep dive as well.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to play that Alex Stein clip maybe at the end or something. But so, okay. This is us taking a journey through Google again together where I'm not trying to convince you of anything you don't already know. So if I, even before you Google this, if I said the words letter C6H12O6.
I'm not allowed to Google that?
No, you can. I just see if you know it. I think it's
the
glucose, or it's sugar, basically.
Yeah, glucose. Okay.
So now you see the letter H in there, right? And you see the letter O in there. Okay. And now if you were to look up a fat, a hydrocarbon, what is a fatty acid chemical formula? Because again, what else has H and O in it? We're going to remember is water, right? H2O, dihydrogen monoxide. It's the largest component of all the polluted rivers is dihydrogen monoxide, which is actually H2O. So the chemical formula is a chain of oxygens and carbon backbone, and sometimes you have like a carbonate. So now you have lots of hydrogen in here and lots of oxygen. There's less oxygen. But now if you also look up something called ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Yeah, it's a tennis tour.
I mentioned ATP and then stellium the other day, and stellium just went through like, it was like photographic memory of his high school biology class, just as like, oh, and then the transition.
So our body is made up of these molecules that have lots of H's and lots of O's in them. And so, yes, if you shook all the molecules and sorted them and then look at just the H's and the O's, you're like, we're made up of 80% water.
Right, because there's oxygen and hydrogen there.
That's a tone that my brother used when he was mocking me growing up, and it's not cute, and I'm going to try never to do that again on air. I'm sorry, that's not cute.
But it's an interesting point that we're made up of oxygen and hydrogen, and it's not all.
And I'm not going to hit myself
H2O.
Because I'm going to clean off my third eye to try to remind myself not that there's other ways of making a point other than mocking. So yeah. Anyways, but it's one of these things. People would say, "Well, we're not 96% water; we're 80%." No, we're made up of these things. In the phosphate, this is where it gets really interesting. So there was that one myth there about. I'm gonna have to shut off the lights for this one, actually. So if you, in the meantime, Google phosphorus ring and show how it glows, a phosphorus ring. Or it's like an epoxy and phosphorus ring. It can hold light energy essentially, and then re-emit it.
So I'm gonna do ring. I saw some birth control and some occult stuff, but not yet.
They knew I was gonna ask you to Google that.
I even had moderate search results. All right, phosphorus ring, phosphorus nomenclature.
They've done it on YouTube a few times. Why is it still so friggin' bright in here? My goodness. Anyways. But we've all done this with a flashlight before, right? Where you take it and you hold it behind your hand and you see, the idea is that it's an X-ray almost, or that light is traveling through your hand. And so you see around your bones. But if you do this and you look at it closely yourself, that's not true. And when you look at it, what's actually happening is the light is exciting the phosphorus in your muscle tissue and it's glowing.
Dang.
And I've never heard anyone say this before. I always did this as a kid and was fascinated by the fact that, wait a minute, no, it's just dark in some places and light. And sometimes the light does seem to kind of bend around the bones, but it's more, when you really look at it, what's happening is that the visible light spectrum is not penetrating your hands. It's being interrupted by an opaque, it's opaque to the visible light, and it's re-emitting in a closer to infrared frequency, and it's your flesh that's glowing as opposed to the light coming through your hand. So I'm going to quit telling ghost stories in the dark here, but fun. There was a Mr. Wizard growing up. He was just this fun science show, and these little at-home demos that you can try yourself. Try it with your friends.
Dang, I just found something weird. Let me see if I can pull this picture up of, first off, white phosphorus burns, white phosphorus dermal burns. Is it going to let me show you? Yeah, so these guys had a burn, and then under phosphorus light, it illuminates because of the phosphorus in the flesh, which is nuts. I don't want to see too much of that, but watch Mr. Wizard, an American television program that demonstrates the science behind ordinary things. That sounds legit. I have not seen this. Sounds like my kind of thing.
So you have a legal section on your Discord, And I have a pet peeve with the juror form that I was sitting on so that I would remember to bring it up. But in order to fill this form out, there's a clear note at the bottom that says you're going to be fined $2,000 if it's incomplete. There's no note that says you're allowed to attach extra paperwork. And one of the questions is, has anyone in your household or family ever had any of the following experiences with the law? Been arrested, been sued, been served with a court order, been convicted of a crime, been a crime victim, been seated on a jury. And so you're telling me that I have to call all of my family members and ask them if they've been a victim of a crime. And then there's literally 2 lines, very small, close together. And it says, if yes, please describe. So it's again, like, even if you have no family members, this is almost the only proper way that I've figured out how to hack this form is to write on each line, there is not enough space to fill out this form. And now I haven't lied.
Right.
But that's the only way to fill, because literally it's asking, and has anyone in your household or family ever worked for the following: law enforcement, corrections, detentions, court system, and then, or other related employer? And what's a related employment to law enforcement? It's like, they may work for the agencies, they probably couldn't tell me, but if I get it wrong on this form, there's a $2,000 fine and a misdemeanor. And if you walk in for jury duty, you have to have this form filled out, or else, again, you're held in contempt of court. And I'm going, how is it? I don't understand how it's possible that anyone has ever successfully filled out this form. And I'm a native English speaker, and I can't make heads or tails. But outside of how it asks you to identify your gender, or who cares? The rest of the form is booby trapped, literally. Not to use a crude word for those, trying to. But help, again, like help. They got the stubborn child law off the books, but maybe this one is still kind of like a barrier.
A little test, yeah.
There's enough lawyers in Boston where you can't swing a dead cat without hitting one, I think is the saying, right? Sorry, Alex.
Wait, you sent me something really weird. I don't know if this is supposed to do this or not, but it's flashing really fast. Is it supposed to do this?
No, can you freeze frame it or?
No, it won't. Let me see if I can
exciting.
Open another page. Or
something. Take it off. You're giving me it.
That's wild. What was that supposed to be? Oh my God.
So it was something that listed Article 24, which is the part of an ancient slave code that was updated into kind of a Magna Carta type Bill of Rights. And it meant that everyone, before you defined freedom or slavery, the idea was, Article 24 is the name of a bar nearby. So of course I Googled it one day. And now when you Google it, it gives you all these other, again, these are not the words or the drones you were looking for. Type in North Atlantic Bridgeways. No, there's no book that contains that. But yeah, shout out to Article 24, by the way. They just lost their parking lot, so careful. Street parking only now.
But yeah, Article 24. I mean, so what is Article 24? I couldn't quite get it to hold
It
still.
was the right to leisure and paid time off.
Interesting.
And so especially if your overlord or your landlord or if your feudal system is a few years overdue, that's what, siesta for a couple of years, they'll figure out if they want to cooperate or not.
Oh, wow. So it's made its way into the United Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has the right to rest.
The Sahara Desert used to be a lush, beautiful place. No, it's not anymore. It'd be a shame. It'd be a shame if the Dust Bowl, happen again. You know what I'm saying? Like gabagool.
What's the name? What's the name of Cyrus Cylinder, right? Cyrus, this thing?
Look up the Masdar Institute of Sustainable Technology. MIT shipped all the weather tech over to them. So, King Khalid has it now. But that's a joke. That's just a joke.
Still amazing.
I do not have access to any classified information.
Right. No, but that looks cool. Okay, but so
and if you have some, don't share it with me because I don't want to be a target. Thank you.
Yeah, no, but send it in the Discord. So Persepolis, Cyrus symbol. You've heard this story that at one point there
from
was
a whistleblower standpoint. Actually, I believe that if you had something and you wouldn't necessarily get in trouble, Xirtus's Discord is a place where someone might see it and be able to do something.
Weird safe space. Can you do a whistleblower? Because you just said whistleblower. Could you do the
serious inquiries only?
Can you do a whistleblower since you said whistleblower? So There you go. Do it backwards. Whoop. Can you go the other direction? I love that. Okay, so but the Cyrus cylinder is a symbol
we'll get better
for
special
human.
effects soon. Yeah.
They say that
I
it's a
interrupted.
declaration of no, it's cool. But it's a declaration of human rights is connected with the Cyrus cylinder because he is this king who who makes the cylinder, says, hey, you have the right to leisure, you have the right to this and that, and I'm going to free you, but I'm freeing you. So in a way, I kind of like own everything. So I'm not going to destroy your city, but yeah, I'm making you free, but I'm making you free. And it happened on, guess when? Let me see if it says it even on the Wikipedia. Columbus Day. If I type in like Columbus Day, which is just very recently. No, it's not going on the page. But I could do it this other way, I bet you. Type in Columbus Day. Go to Wikipedia.
It is 9:43, by the way. We're almost 2 hours in.
Oh, that's not bad. All right. I'll go back. Last thing I want.
I'm happy to go over, but you were saying something about us not getting promoted.
Yeah, after 2 hours they cut you, but at the end they stop telling people what your channel's happening. But if people are watching, it's good. But here, 539 BC, Cyrus the Great of Persia takes Babylon, ending the Babylonian rule, and that's when the series. So it's in here. If you look up Columbus Day, according to that's how you find it. So Columbus Day is a re-celebration. Indigenous Peoples Day is a re-celebration. It should be Cyrus the Great Day, I say.
Okay.
Well, okay, but there was also this. Should I start at one end or the other? Oh, whoa. Let me pull up. Show me this.
This is actually what's going to go in the center of that logo. This is the figure 8 that goes in the center. No, I made this in architecture school, and I was accused of fetishizing the materials. I don't know.
It looks like a liquid cooling system for a computer.
Super thick gauge copper wire, and I managed to bend it in a very interesting way with just hand tools, and then also feed it through a tube. A lot of the artwork that I'm interested in is process oriented, where you look at it and there's a story about how it was made, and then there's a couple like weird turns, and you're going, wait a minute, how did he thread the rigid copper wire through the flexible tube and then get it into that shape? Like a piece of glass is a story. Oftentimes you can tell if it was a triple Nkomo and then reverse axis, and then how the color was added, that sort of thing. Whether or not they used an oxyacetylene torch to add details, or if it was all furnace work. But yeah, eventually I'm going to be putting this stuff on an Etsy shop, I think. And when it comes to some of my other artwork, I may put prints up for a cheaper price and then put the original up at a higher price. Things I don't want to part with, but that either will go towards a charity or funding a documentary that Andreas is going to create, or that hopefully I'll get to be a part of or something.
Dude, we should also like build that to be, so if we attach that to your heater or furnace thing and it just liquid cooled or liquid heated an apartment, you know what I mean? That'd be like
certainly suggestive of that. Yeah.
I like the idea. It's pretty sweet.
And then this other thing on my wall there, that kind of plaid, that's made of copper flashing and stainless steel flashing. That's meant for roofing, and you can buy it by the roll at Home Depot. And I had been holding on to all my extra supplies from design school after I got kicked out, like the redheaded architect in the Fountainhead.
Good book.
My brother wasn't rejected from art school, but he did fail out. So, as far as like mythologies go, being the guy from the Fountainhead may be better than being the guy who got rejected.
I like the
from art
Fountainhead.
School.
It's a good book. Did you ever have you seen the Guggenheim in Bilbao? It kind of reminded me of some of the stuff you do. It's got a lot of perfectly pressed metal, kind of like a fish scale and things like that.
Yeah, it looks like a Gary building, and they actually use shipbuilding technology to build a 3D model of those stainless steel plates. And you see over on the right side, there's like different lots of the metal. I bet you that drove Gary crazy, because the anodizing on the aluminum panels, or if that stainless steel, whatever oil canning on the finish isn't oriented the same way, and when it reflects the light, it's patchy. You see that up top too?
Yeah.
It's architect's worst nightmare. That's not, but at the same time, that's where Elon Musk recently was quoted as saying he's the person who knows the most about manufacturing on the entire planet. And I would just like to say that I've watched every episode of How It's Made, except for that one season where they changed the voiceover actor to this other weird wimpy voice, and then they eventually brought the real guy back.
Do you know who that was? That voice that they brought back? I remember that. No. I've seen every episode too, and it was the guy. It's Joey from Friends.
Whoa.
Look it up. No, I'm doing it right now.
Oh yeah, please, dude.
How it's
that guy has
made.
talked before ASMR. That guy talked me to sleep
Easier way to
with
do
these
this.
hypnotic motions of the manufacturer. Because I was fascinated with the idea of once you come up with an innovation, how does it make it to market?
Not
And the
Joey.
process of manufacturing is the actual process by which those innovations get integrated into products and then brought to market. But how does everything else work on the back end? And the answer is there is no real answer to that. But
okay, so I just have to type in David Schwimmer, and because he played Ross, it wasn't Joey, and how it's made, and the episodes he did. Where is it? I know he did it. I know it. Where's the TV part? It should say TV.
I believe you. I believe you.
I know it's there somewhere. I don't know how it's made. How it's
IMDb.
made. I give up. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was. I remember. I totally remember it being like how it's made. It's somewhere. I don't know.
Dead air, dead air, dead air.
Not important. Not important. I'll find it another day. Wait.
Hold on. Yeah, my headphones are down. You've got the wheel, dude.
Yeah, there was something I wanted
to. The pineapple.
There was something I wanted to look up, which
maybe
is
the broccoli.
The Infinity 8 in the cube. Here, you know what I'm talking about? This thing.
So
the cube Infinity 8.
Yeah.
Want to run through?
So I was looking at the Cube Infinity 8 logo for so long, and it just wasn't quite right. And this idea that in photography too, you want to angle the person's eye from the lower left-hand corner of the frame and create motion up and through the upper right-hand corner. And if you're watching, depending on how this is coming across on the screen, maybe you got to flip that. But here it is vertical. And then there's another. So now it's going up and to the right. It's this positive, productive thing. And it kind of messes with your eyes if you try to see it in a certain way. And it can be a two-dimensional sigil. But now that I've gotten it in this orientation, you had a guest on named Jack. He had a couple crystals as well. I think it was a Woo Wednesday maybe, or a Sync Tank. But you mentioned maybe he wanted to connect. And I heard him talking about the annulus and the, what's it called? The Mobius strip. And
right.
It's an 8. It's an infinity sign. It's a...
Yeah, the Mobius strip's amazing. You know, that you can be on one side the entire time. That's great. That's reality.
But see, I wonder how reality works. So now it's like you display that FF logo, the one that looks like maybe a bird flying away.
There should be Mobius pasta. Is that a thing?
That'd be great instead of alphabets.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, but the manufacturing process for it, whoa. Yeah, by hand. By hand. That's how you know grandma made it. You know?
Dang.
Or at least with grandma's recipe.
There's got to be a machine. You could just like twist and cut, strip, twist and cut, strip. I mean, I don't know. Not important, but I would love it if that existed.
So check out the F. There was that just 2 lines. Flip one more, please.
This thing?
There we go. So you kind of see the Facebook F in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there's 2 F. There's 2 Fs. So the idea, it could stand for Funk and Fit or Fit and Fed.
I definitely see the Masonic, what's it, the Facebook Freemason sign too. You know, that cane thing.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah, the Facebook logo is based on this. I mean, I don't know if it's based on this, but it's uncanny, isn't it? Isn't it? It's the Masonic Lodge. It's a French.
Have you seen the logo on the inside of Zuckerberg's coat?
No. It's
like some master crest and like diagram of 500 agencies of all these spokes coming off of. When you see the diagrams and organization charts that these things encode.
This thing on the inside here?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That is see, like people always give him trouble, but that is based. That is a great interior. He's like, this is just for me. I don't care what you see. I don't even want you to see it really. What?
But so the idea of a fit and fed, there's the idea of like the feds have certain plants and they're going to be very fit people in your community, maybe, you know, because they're coming off of duty. And
so he has this sigil on his chest for the year. This is his New Year's resolution. That is based. That is. He's dedicated. He's
I've got like
dedicated.
20 companies like this that are all positive, just about, spreading wellness and stuff. And maybe my brother looks a lot like Mark and he's one of the only tech billionaire companies. He himself is not a billionaire. He walked away with, 1% of his company because that's what it took to leverage resources to make it happen. But everyone, he has no social media presence. Essentially, he's very behind. If there was someone that was working with Prince Harry and his brother to be Banksy, it might be my brother.
Keep it low key.
One of his art school projects was to build this box and hang it up on top of a like an electrical pole, a telephone pole. It's one of these existential things, right? It's like, what's that? And it's like, that's where I'm homeless or whatever. I'm an art student. That's where I store my stuff. But like, how to access it, and you have to have a pole and get the latch, and then it slides down the pole, and then you just prop it back up or something. It was an art project.
Dude,
in Boston,
Pinterest
at
is
one
amazing.
point, they had these like light bright pads, and it caused like a big terrorism scare because on a bunch of bridges and famous places, there were these battery packs hooked up to illuminated signs. So here's an object that on a channel that I watch and follow. I want to say his name is, I wish I could give it better credit, but he was covering an air show and I guess you could look at the top menu bar. Someone wanted to type it in, really be obsessed about it. But if you click one other image, there's a close up of whatever it is that is above and to the right of that.
This guy here.
Yeah, and there's a regularly timed air show that's
Oh
coordinated
my
with
God.
the
I didn't even
seasons.
see it because my face
And it's
was over
almost
the
like
corner.
this thing seems to reappear at a specific time, and we do this whole air show around it to try to get close to it, and we've got it timed. We know when it's in orbit, and it's in low Earth orbit, and somehow it's not hitting a mountain each time it zips around the Earth. And we that could just be something crystallizing in the atmosphere, right? It's
Yeah,
just slowly
right.
picking
Sure.
up calcium and oxygen. But now when you flip back to Russell Brand and you
Hold on,
look
I
at the
gotta look at
logo
this thing.
on,
Okay, yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah,
look at,
dude.
okay, that appeared on this. He has a lot of drip swag, his and now I sound like I'm trying to talk like a millennial. I sound like no fuckers trying to, or
I thought
NFKRZ
it's
trying to talk
drip
English.
swag couture. He is quite the bit of
But
macaroni
it
upon his
appeared the
head.
same day that video appeared, where that weird flying saucer shape with the spokes around the edge showed up. He wore this T-shirt, and it shows up in now
Not
that
even a
was like the
t-shirt.
third or
That's like
fourth time
a
him wearing it. The
that's like
first
the
time he
post
did wear it.
office agent shirt. Post office agents are definitely the most terrifying. Am I right? I mean, they know where everyone lives. Dogs fear them. This is a
So
post
clearly,
office.
it's all connected. And again, it was the pattern recognition wetware. Who else watched those two videos and connected those dots? But
I
whatever
mean, come
feeds
on.
I'm being fed told
And
me to bring
he
this in. I thought it was interesting and novel enough to bring it and just go, "Whoa, isn't that weird?" I wonder what
yeah.
that is.
So, but like, where's that thing at? This is the calcified crust on the, no, this looks like it's a disc copter. This is a UFO if I've ever seen one.
No, what's his
This
name?
is a pretty decent UFO shot. I
An
mean,
ancient, like Socrates built a giant slingshot and launched that at a very specific angle and knew where the elevations were. And it's been circulating at 10 feet above Earth for thousands of years. So here's an interesting mathematical concept. You said you eventually wanted to get to something mathematical as well. We did one thing, but a quick mental exercise. And this is where finally, right here at the end, the audience can play along. I can even get this in like 1 minute. So you have, and Andreas too, I'm going to try to engage your intellect. This is one of those things. See if you can get it before you Google it. So if you have the diameter of the Earth and you have a string tied tight, let's pretend that it's going directly over all the nooks and crannies, mountain valleys, and it's on the floor, okay? And it's tight. You can't lift it up. And then you add 10 feet to that string and distribute the length across the rest of it so that there's an even space. So now, can you slide a piece of paper underneath the string? Can a small dog walk under the string? Could you walk under the string? And so intuitively, what does your mind tell you? And this is where you would hit pause if you're at home and you want to just think about this for a second. So again, the premise is pretend it's a perfect sphere and you have a string tied tight around it, a massive, and then all you're doing is adding 10 feet to that rope over the course of thousands of miles, okay? How high does that string then elevate off? And could you slide a piece of paper under it?
I think you could because the world's not perfectly spherical, and there's all these areas that it could depress, and but there's
so
also
apply the ideal gas law to it though. Pretend you're on a perfect sphere.
Okay.
And put it that way, because I agree with what you're saying. By the time you add it and compensate for
Yeah, then maybe
It
not.
fractalizes the issue.
Then maybe not because, well, okay, well then also maybe yes,
And
because it would
intuitively,
also remove mountains and it would remove terrain ranges. But
so the strange thing is you just have to divide 10 by pi, and that's the number of feet underneath, because you're creating a circle of a diameter with 10, and when you plug it into the math, right, intuitively, you shouldn't even really be able to slide a piece of paper under. You're only adding 10 feet over the course of this huge amount. But in reality, it expands the overall diameter. So excuse me, I've been using the wrong term. This is Sunday night brain. I'm talking about the circumference of a cross-sectional area of a sphere.
okay.
And so people can do this exercise at home. We don't have to prove the math here, but this is, try it with your friends. Are you not entertained?
Take a string, pull it around the world together. It could be some sort of new peace protest. I love it. But no, mathematically speaking, I think I'd want to use a simulator, but I think it wouldn't be that big of a difference. But I guess if it's 10 feet distributed, it might. That's so confusing.
And I'm glad that having not done it, I was that sure. And this is what life is like, right? The skeptical mind is willing to then do the math and look into it and not assume that their first inclination or the thing that they've been raised believing is necessarily true.
Just want to make things equal for everybody.
We could do breathing exercises for the last 90 seconds, or we could just keep going. But
let's do some breathing exercises, and we'll play the song when we go, and we could no, we're at the end of the thing.
Yeah, dude.
Dang.
We can just cut it.
Is there any more?
And start another one. Let's cut it. Let's hack the system, dude. Right?
We should do a rumble.
Dude, let's cover. Roll the song. Roll it.
Let's cover. I gotta edit a video.
Interruption.
Let's cover the last. Let's cover the last thing. We'll do another one. But what does this thing say? It says, for example, spring-loaded exoskeletons. Oh,
yeah, the spring-loaded exoskeleton. So these robots that they stroll out there. Elon just did a demo. They seem so weak and so frail, almost like aging humans. And if only these delicate robotics had some sort of external exoskeleton, the way that, they make them that are hydraulic powered and electric powered. There are old school versions that are just spring loaded. They're called balanced springs. And yeah, if one of those springs pops or breaks, it could fly off and really hurt someone. But if you know the alloys and you know how to, Alan Pan was a YouTuber. If you just Google it, the thumbnail itself, he's holding this 50 pound sword, PAN. We used to work for NASA with Mark Rober, I believe.
Alan Pan?
And if you type in exoskeleton,
exoskeleton,
and YouTube.
Alan Pan. There he is, guy.
Yeah. So usually you could not move that, but he built this kind of analog retro exoskeleton that doesn't have batteries. It's just balanced springs, and it's really. Right. But so what if you put one of those on a robot that was weak, but had fine motor control?
Right. There's tons of these things people don't think of. The Steadicam students, non-electric, and it uses.
This is the way that the old people are going to trick the young people into building support harnesses for human-shaped objects because they want to see their robotic projects go farther. When in reality, they're actually building. Before we get the upload, the wetware interaction.
Japanese elders using exoskeletons to continue working. Here's an old man who's in his 70s who's using a exoskeleton suit. Now there's tons of people picking fruit and strawberries. Japanese famous for its workers, either because it is a real problem or workaholism, I don't know, or because condition oral people to adopt these behaviors, but usually they do unusual things, et cetera, et cetera. The thing is, these suits are available for people that want to keep working in their 70s to their 90s. And then they're bending over, picking stuff up. And
it's just, they can usually only go on a 30-minute walk with their kids, and now they can go on a 2-hour walk because they've got an exoskeleton.
Maybe.
And
I think it's because they love to work.
The risk is like during the early days of Hollywood cinema, there were oftentimes smaller sized people and actors that were told to get into these costumes that had automated contraptions and sometimes broke their necks literally, or because if that thing short circuits and it's hydraulics and it forces you to stand up farther than you can, it could break your back. But I'm sure the same way that when Murphy beds were first invented, you could cut off your fingers and toes 100 different ways, but now they make them with 0 pinch points with balanced springs, similar where with a pinky, you can lower a 50-pound bed up and down, and grandma can do it, and it doesn't hurt you.
One of the most frivolous things I want is a Murphy bed. I love them.
So we were going to do breathing before the end, maybe just to
let's do a breathing thing. Or
follow
is it?
through
Are
on
you
that.
ready? Are you ready? Are you ready for the breathing?
Let me just see if there's any other really clever notes here on my scroll.
Okay. I'll show some pictures of ramen to get us in the mood.
So just something really like 5-second interesting Google. Again, we're not fact checking, but if you type in cesium, Caesium, it's an element, and it's in a glass tube, usually. See, okay? And now it's liquid at body temperature, but as soon as it gets to room temperature, it like kind of crystallizes and hardens. But what else do you know about liquid metals? Like in an antenna, when you use mercury, it can act as a medium that receives digital or radio waves, correct?
Right.
So in the old days, cesium, it looks like gold, doesn't it? It looks like liquid gold.
Yeah, it's got that color, the yellow.
So to the ordinary person, a glass vial of that intact might be one of the highest priced. They might even be more valuable than gold because it's actually an antenna to an ancient, right? Because if that was full of mercury and you use that as your antenna, it would work. And as soon as it's in liquid form. So my only thing is, the first episode of Rick and Morty, when they find the seeds and they've got to smuggle them back through customs, it's late enough on Sunday night. I'll make one untoward joke. But the idea is, if you had to keep that warm, where would you keep it other than under your armpit? And it's body temperature, and now ET can phone home. But if we're just passing this thing back and forth, doing this with it, it's never. I hope Pink Trip picks that up. That was totally unintentional, but I hope Pink Trip edits that into something awful. Anyways,
man, Holy Mountain Alchemy. That's where we're at. Well, for the love of God, I think that's pretty good. We should definitely do this again. I appreciate that you came and we had this.
Play an Alex Stein clip and then do some breathing, or
which Alex Stein clip are you trying to play?
Oh, that's right. I didn't send it to you on my Facebook.
Yeah.
Should we save it for next time?
We'll save it for next time. But I'm ready. Right. You want to do a
yeah.
position?
So this time, instead of circles, what we're going to do is practice with 3 breaths. We're going to shrug the shoulders and hold it. And then at the end, we're going to take 2 breaths with just kind of keeping the shoulders down and back. What you want to imagine is that you're pinching a pencil between the shoulder blades. So not only are we then shrugging the shoulders up, imagine shrugging the shoulders back now, like you're trying to pinch a pencil between the shoulder blades after trying to wear your shoulders like earrings. Get that range of motion, and you're going to slide the shoulders down and back. And instead of projecting out your lower ribs, your lower back can stay curved, but imagine hugging in, knitting in your lower ribs as you roll the shoulders down and back, pencil between the shoulder blades. So we're going to start with the exhale, like we did the last time. Empty the lungs. Empty, empty, empty. In through the nose for 3 as you shrug. 2, 1, hold it and squeeze, and then exhale through the mouth for 3 as the shoulders go back and down. 2, empty the lungs all the way until you kind of wheeze a little bit in through the nose as you shrug. 2, 1, and then exhale, shoulders back and down. Try to lengthen the back of your neck by tucking your chin. 1 more breath in as you shrug. Hold it at the top. Shoulders as earrings, back and down, pencil between the shoulder blades, tuck in the lower ribs. And then 2 sighing breaths. Inhale through the nose for 3, 2, permission to be ridiculous. And 1 more in through the nose. Lengthen through the top of your head and let it go. Maybe turn your palms up and accept some calming energy for the rest of the night. And then after accepting that calming energy, turn the palms to face down to kind of keep that energy down. Maybe go pet one of your cats. And I agree with the super chat from last time. Alex was definitely the most beautiful one on the podcast. So. And live, it's Sunday night from
Dude, we should do that way more often. I'm a big fan
You
of
guys
that.
shouldn't do that. Imagine if you did that in an actual yoga class.
And live. So that's what we should do. I'm a fan of that.
My friends from college was like, dude, you shouldn't worry, but you should teach yoga with sunglasses on and like offer mimosas as you walk around. Like, you swap out their Gatorades.
There's not enough comedy yoga. I think that's a thing that's really underrated and needs more of.
There's some interesting channels. Yeah, I don't know how to make money on YouTube by curating the 8 most interesting attempts at a yoga comedy series, but they exist and they could be built.
Bikini yoga Twitch, I think, exists now. So there's room for everyone who's trying to get into that field. But Stefan, I'll see you on the Discord. Everybody, if you haven't, or thank you for the super chats, and if you haven't,
asana practice, not yoga.
Next time,
just got to be clear. But thank you, Andreas, for having me on for the first time. And again.
First time again. But guys, go to the Discord, tartarnova.com, get in the Discord. We're going to start doing radio chats more regularly. I think that's starting very soon. And we might even continue the conversation there.
And do an episode where we just dive into the Discord, because he's got a separate channel for each episode where you guys can suggest content that they go through. And remember, Andreas has links where you can go in the middle of the night, tithe and patron, support the cause.
You can always
I know that
helpful.
He's, if MetaPC doesn't bless, there's always...
MetaPC, you better bless. But guys, go to the Escape the Discord, tartarnova.com. You can find it there. And then if you go down, there's lots of research going on, but also the Tartary, be advised, it's not a secure line. We're going to join the radio chat. And Stefan, if you're free.
And it was a monkey day today. We did pretty good not talking over each other. And we got through a lot of content. This is called the Thinking Man. And this is the African version that I was able to buy. But talk about a fluid. You see how it's a guy thinking with his hand?
Oh.
But this is a form that's existed. And so when we see the version that's in the museum of, the thinker, that's just one version of a visual. I keep calling it a phoneme, even though it's definitely not a phoneme. Maybe we'll have someone smart on that will tell us about this stuff at isitreal.com. But
I got a whole weird, I think I've already said this, but my whole thing with Radine's thinker statue, if you see my Dobie Gillis video talking about how it used to look more like, and now he's more like, And it's, are you gonna go buy isitreal.com or should I? Let's talk about it in the radio show right now.
Yeah, that's right. There's an after show. I forget. I feel like all right.
Let me see. Video, share video, and
now we're gonna go talk about drugs and hookers.
Yeah, I mean, because those are the Civil War subjects most interesting. If you looked into
the backside of the Constitution was a Kama Sutra with a price list, and we just haven't seen the invisible, and that would have resolved everything.
I thought everybody knew that. All right, see you later.
Anyways, thanks, guys.
Peace.